Man must change, either voluntarily or through severe shock.
A fiery dragon will cross the sky 6 times before this earth shall die.
At night, they will think they have seen the sun when they see the half-pig man.
A landmass rising, giant waves were set in motion by this eruption to crash upon the shores of the Australian continent. Great tidal waves were hurling themselves upon the coastal cities, destroying all in their path.
Man
Little
flees
escaped.
in terror from the floods, and kills and rapes and lies in blood.
For
and
nation
spilling
will
blood by
rise
mankind's
against nation,
hands will
and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be food
Earth
shortages.
will be broken in many places. The upper portion
There will
of
be
Europe
such a great
changed
sudden
as in the
flood
twinkling of an
that
eye.
one will not have a place
great earth
for land to fall
such
on.
as had not occurred since men came
This
to be
prophecy
on the earth.
will come to be.
With the year 2000 fast approaching, many people find themselves irresistibly drawn toward the messages that are contained within prophecy. Many of these prophecies have been fulfilled with unnerving detail and accuracy, and yet heated debate still continues on exactly what they're trying to say. Is mankind being warned of something? Hi, I'm Ronnie Burns, and we're about to see how Nostradamus, John the Apostle in his book of Revelation, Mother Shipton, the 15th century prophetess, Edgar Cayce, who is known as the Sleeping Prophet, and many other visionaries all seem to be saying the same thing. Apocalyptic dates commonly identified by visionaries of the past include, among others, the year 666, along with the year AD 1000, both favourite dates for doomsdayers. And then there was 1066, the Battle of Hastings, 1666, when London burned, which Mother Shipton, the 15th century English prophetess, accurately predicted. The Hopi Nation of northern Arizona predicted both the First and Second World Wars. They tried to warn the American government on both occasions, but were ignored. And in 1999, July, a comet of destruction is predicted to collide with the Earth. Should we accept the notion of prophecy and prediction and its so-called ability to reveal the future? If so, we would want to know if such forecasts are a threat or a warning.
My interpretation at this point that 1998 through 2002 or 3 or whatever are going to be the most difficult of the Earth change years.
Within the next 5 to 10 years or so, we'll experience Earth changes the likes of which the world has never seen.
It will not simply be earthquakes and tidal waves, it'll be war.
Whenever there is a high point of civilization, it always ends in catastrophe.
What all scientists seem to agree upon is that change is upon us, major change.
And we begin our quest at the greatest archaeological monument of all time, the Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau in ancient Egypt. The Great Pyramid stands 46 stories high and dwarfs the Sydney Opera House. If it was set down in New York, it would occupy 13 city blocks, while the Empire State Building, although taller, covers only half a city block. Not only is its sheer size impressive, but it would have to be the most controversial building of all time.
The dating of the construction of the Great Pyramid is still up for grabs. Physical evidence seems to only reveal around 2500 to 3000 BC. But astronomical evidence that has surfaced recently indicates it could be 10,450 to 10,500 BC. And of course, that fits with Edgar Cayce's dating of the whole Giza Plateau, particularly the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid.
There are several theories concerning who actually built the pyramids. Some say it was the Atlanteans, some say it was the Egyptians, and others even say it could have been extraterrestrials. Perhaps it was a combination of them all. People have laboured for hundreds of years on this site, interpreting and misinterpreting their findings. Their calculations often led them to believe they'd uncovered prophetic meaning within the Great Pyramid's curious sacred geometry. Do the pyramids foretell of future events? Peter Lemasuria, author of The Great Pyramid Decoded, read languages at Cambridge and is a teacher and translator. Over the years, he has focused on ancient Egyptian mysteries and is an authority on the Great Pyramid's internal timeline.
Now, the Great Pyramid, again, according to my decoding and a lot of other people before me, contains a, if you like, a blueprint for human evolution, a history of the world in advance.
The theory is that when we examine the pyramid's sacred geometry, we can calculate significant historical events such as the outbreak of the First and Second World Wars, the bombing of Hiroshima, the JFK assassination. About here would be about 2 BC, and up here would be around about 29 AD, which of course is when Jesus started his ministry. I'm now entering the Grand Gallery with its magnificently engineered corbel ceiling. And this line here, this wall here, represents the year 33 AD, where there's said to be a sudden explosion of enlightenment, this year being the death of Jesus Christ. As we ascend the Grand Gallery, we see how, when measured in pyramid inches, one can pinpoint certain major events in history. According to this method of calculation, great earth changes seem to be scheduled to take place around the turn of this century. Here the ceiling drops down dramatically, interestingly enough, between now and the year 2000. So it seems mankind is forced down onto his hands and knees before entering the King's Chamber of Enlightenment. And finally, this is the King's Chamber. Right here I'm standing under the apex of the pyramid and its supposed sarcophagus or open tomb. It symbolises the new age, the golden age.
But then above that there are 5 more chambers, which rather suggests 5 more dimensions of consciousness, culminating in an upward arrow, which may suggest that's where we're supposed to be going.
It's incredible to think that some long-lost ancient culture is somehow reaching out to us, the people of the 20th century, and trying to warn us of something. The late Edgar Cayce told us of discoveries to be made beneath the Sphinx in 1998. Cayce foretold of these mysterious chambers containing ancient artefacts being discovered beneath the Sphinx around 1998. He said these discoveries would serve to enlighten mankind. The great changes predicted by the pyramids are expected to occur once these chambers have been opened.
So there's a message there, let's look for it, and this is the big thing that's going on at the moment. Let's look for this secret chamber. And the Egyptian government have got a bit fed up and told them there's no more looking for secret chambers, thank you very much. And I can't say I blame them. But of course, if it were right, and the whole thing weren't built by Egyptians, then you can understand their anxiety.
The secret chambers beneath the Sphinx may not only contain a hidden repository of knowledge left by the builders of the Great Pyramids, but speculation has it that even the missing capstone of the Great Pyramid may be lying here waiting to be unearthed. It's difficult to imagine what might happen with the rediscovery and replacing of this missing capstone if it is to play some part in the enlightenment of humankind. Perhaps this capstone acts as a kind of ignition key to activate this remarkable piece of machinery that is the Great Pyramid.
Line that runs the gamut of thousands of miles around the Earth, separating boundaries or tectonic plate boundaries. It is where plates come together and apply maximum stress. And where that stress is, we see volcanic activity. The vast majority of volcanism is found on the Ring of Fire. This passes up through the United States. It passes down through South America. It is a global encompassing line. As the Earth stresses due to a distortion of its wobble or its core, it applies stress to this Ring of Fire, and it becomes alive and active. We can expect that that will become even more active as we enter the years 98 to 2002. Instead of a handful of volcanoes going off, we need to think in terms of hundreds of volcanoes going off.
The lands of the samurai will undergo great change. A great deal of that land will sink beneath the waves. The great Ring of Fire will then burst into life, bringing in its wake the collapse of the bed of the ocean, causing the great fire mount there to spew forth destruction.
Japan has had a very long history of volcanic activity, and there's also quite a high frequency of volcanic events and quite a high density or concentrations of volcanoes in that country. There are many areas in the world where volcanoes are on the brink of eruption. It's not unusual for those types of events to produce large solitary waves of seawater which have been called tsunamis.
For storms will rage and oceans roar when Gabriel stands on sea and shore, and as he blows his wondrous horn, old worlds die and new be born.
Mother Shipton, as well as predicting major Earth changes for our time, foresaw the discoveries of her own writings 500 years after her death. 30 years ago, a rare collection of Mother Shipton's prophecies was smuggled out of the Mitchell Library, which is now the State Library of New South Wales. The originals had been kept in a locked room, along with many other volumes of prophetic writings deemed unsuitable for viewing by the general public.
I know I go. I know I'm free. I know that this will come to be. Secreted this, for this will be found by later dynasty.
And she, in these prophecies, spoke of a fiery dragon crossing the sky at the end of the century. And that, again, refers to a comet or this star.
Not every soul on earth will die as the dragon's tail goes sweeping by.
Mother Shipton also speaks of continents sinking when this comet passes by.
Not every land on earth will sink, but these will wallow in stench and stink of rotting bodies of beast and man, of vegetation crisped on land.
The prophecies of Mother Shipton, Nostradamus, Edmund Harold, and Gordon Michael Scallion not only speak of great earth changes, but they all make mention of global warfare in the very near future.
Alas, a war will follow with the work, where dwells the pagan and the Turk. These states will lock in fiercest strife and seek to take each other's life.
I have seen visions that indicate that the problem will start in Turkey, and from Turkey it will spread to Iran, and from Iran it will spread to the Middle East, and there will be a nuclear exchange there.
It will not simply be earthquakes and tidal waves, it'll be war. And this is something, again, that has to happen because civilization has become so corrupt. And people are not willing to change voluntarily, and therefore the changes have to be forced upon them.
As we already know, the Hopi were correct with their predictions concerning the First and Second World Wars. They also warn us of an impending Third World War.
The spirits will warn you twice, but the third time, you stand alone. We've had 2 warnings, the First and Second World Wars, but now we stand alone in the third one. There'll be no one protected, and whoever dropped that gourd of ashes, upon them, it is going to drop. They said the gourd of ashes will fall from the air. It will make the people like blades of grass in a prairie fire, and things will not grow for many seasons. You know the gourd of ashes by the name atomic bomb.
Wars will start up again. The sky will burn at 45 degrees. Fire approaches the great new city. Immediately a huge scattered flame leaps up. The machine of flying fire will come to trouble the great chief. Plague, famine, death from the military hands as the century approaches its renewal.
According to the visions of Edmund Harold, Australia is certainly going to attract its own fair share of upheaval. A similar view is held by Gordon Michael Scallion.
There's some signs to watch for to indicate that there are changes that are going to be happening within weeks rather than years or even months. The early signs will be is that you'll begin to see weather pattern changes in the internal part of the land.
The Territory's main north-south highway has been cut on both sides of the town. More than one motorist scrambling to safety just in time. Tonight, the threat to Katherine is very far from being over. The military working against time, sandbagging the centre of town against the waters that continue to creep up to record levels. Peter Harvey, National 9 News.
You'll see migrations occurring, not only of animals, but the indigenous people. The Aborigines will move to the north and to the northwest. And because their own connection with the land is going to guide them into what will become the new area. The deserts areas will bloom. New water will create new huge lakes, and the water will be sweet water.
Nostradamus speaks of the great city of the maritime ocean surrounded by a swamp of crystal. Could this be a description of the aftermath of a tidal wave that has ravaged a city of glass skyscrapers?
There will be such a great sudden flood that one will not have a place or land to fall on. The waters mount the Olympic Festulum. It will appear at the time of the games of the slaughter of the bull.
A clue as to which maritime city is going to be destroyed at this time is made clearer in his Hecatomb quatrain. Hecatomb means the games of the slaughter of the bull, which he could be referring to the Sydney 2000 Olympic Games coinciding with incredible global catastrophe. In Nostradamus' days, the Olympic Games were nothing more than an ancient event that hadn't taken place since before Christ. It's strange how he chose to associate this ancient event with disaster around the turn of the century. In ancient Greece, the start of the Olympic Games was marked by the sacrificial slaughter of a bull. It's worth noting that Homebush, where the Olympic Village is located, was once the Homebush slaughter yards. But Edmund Harrell goes into far more detail in his visions concerning Australia.
This land must also be cleansed. It has a great part to play in the new age. It will become a mighty, spiritually evolved nation. But before that occurs, much else must happen. A gigantic wall of water silently leapt towards the Sydney. With an enormous roar, it thundered down upon the glistening buildings, smashing them apart like matchwood. The great opera house, with its futuristic design, was cast into the air like a giant toy. Grim silence followed their return to the sea, taking with them the debris of a once proud city. That particular tidal wave was set in motion due to a seabed earthquake in the region of the Fire Islands, known to you as Fiji. These islands are really the mountaintops of an ancient land, known once as Mu, or Lemuria. That land is also about to rise above the waves, and it is that which causes the havoc you have just witnessed.
The first wave of migrations occur when there's warnings that large tsunamis will be heading in the direction, Sydney initially. And there'll be a warning of about 4 to 6 hours.
And tsunamis, if they are large enough, have the capacity to travel long distances and could even transgress the entire width of the Pacific Ocean. So an event in New Zealand, yes, theoretically could create a tsunami that could reach the eastern seaboard of Australia.
New Zealand and the sea in the region of these islands began to boil. Great jets of water shot high into the air.
The amplitude of such a tsunami wave would vary enormously depending on the intensity of the event from which it was sourced. For example, with the eruption of Krakatoa in Indonesia in 1883, when parts of the edifice collapsed into the sea, and when very dynamic flows of gas and ash entered the sea from the volcanic edifice, very large tsunami waves up to 15 to 20 metres in height were generated.
Great tidal waves were hurling themselves upon the coastal cities, destroying all in their path. Little escaped. Cities were crushed beneath the force of the waves, some of which were some 300 feet above the surface of the sea.
But not all of the changes are bad. Although the civilization is largely on the coast, and it's the coastal areas that will be inundated, most people who've got any sense when the warnings come will move inland. And the new civilization of Australia will be in what is now the Red Centre.
The great desert regions. A great transformation will take place. The unbearable heat had been reduced considerably, and upon the sands, grass now grew, turning this once arid region into a green haven.
There's prophecies happening right now. There are a series of events that have never been seen in this country before. Take, for example, the case at Ayers Rock, when it snowed for the first time. You know, this hasn't been recorded before in history, something like this happening. But it's happening, and yet we just allowed that event to go straight over the top of our heads. We have always predicted that those who disturb the rainbow snake are dealing with danger. And the more we disturb the snake, the more mankind is falling down. Now, you can't keep taking away its spirit without returning some energies to it. What we're saying is that if this continues to happen, there will be a catastrophe.
90% of our population in the States is primarily on the coastal regions. In fact, if we were to look at any country, we would find that the populations are on the coastal areas. With climatic changes, we're going to see more hurricanes, tornadoes, typhoons. We're going to see tsunamis. We're going to see land masses changing.
I would certainly be worried if I was living in that cyclone-affected area of the future possibilities of much more extensive cyclones, bigger storms, more frequent storms, and of course where many of those cities are coastally related, and they become very, very vulnerable under those circumstances.
With the threat of extreme climatic changes, global warming, rising sea levels, holes in our ozone layer, and our ecosystem breaking down, have we reached the point of no return?
We are confused as scientists as to exactly what's happening ourselves. On the one hand, there are signs and evidence of increased global cooling, increased ice accumulation on the poles. 95% of the decades since AD 1600 tend to be cooler. And at the same time, there's this 5.5 million square mile hole in the ozone in the southern hemisphere and in other places, and signs that things are warming.
You see, we have this phenomenon for the first time in the geological record, the first time that we've had such warming at such rates and in the context now of people populating the planet.
Somewhere along the way in our history, we decided that we could control nature, and in fact, we can't.
Sargasso Sea. In this area we find the Bermuda Triangle, famous in legend for the countless vessels that have disappeared without trace in this vicinity. Some think that this could be the site of the lost city of Atlantis, said to have sunk beneath the ocean 10 to 12,000 years ago.
After the last ice age, which was what, sort of about 10,000 years ago, 12,000 years ago, the sea rose 380 feet. So our sea levels today are 380 feet higher than they were in the olden days. So the idea that there were people that lived where the water is today is nothing particularly sort of amazing or special or odd, you know. Plato is credited with sort of writing about Atlantis, and I'm absolutely sure there are major civilizations and cities that are under the water.
Perhaps Atlantis is not a myth. And if not, will it rise for all to see by the end of the century, as Edgar Cayce predicts? An event like this would cause tidal waves and earthquakes such as the world has never seen. It's anyone's guess how this might affect countries whose coastlines back onto the Atlantic Ocean. Take New York City, for example. Most New Yorkers are completely unaware that there are numerous fault lines running across Manhattan, threatening New York with total destruction. So if Nostradamus and Scallion's predictions are correct, then New York could be destroyed before the year 2000.
Earth, shaking fire from the center of the earth, will cause tremors around the new city.
Earth shaking fire from the center of the earth. This could be interpreted as earthquakes. And is the new city New York?
Yes, I know all about Nostradamus. I've read about him, and he's a pretty scary guy. His predictions are pretty on the mark. And if he's right, we got a lot to worry about.
Much of New York City will be destroyed by earthquake and tidal wave around the year 1999. Many portions of the East Coast will be greatly disturbed, as in the west and central portion of the United States. Los Angeles and San Francisco, these areas will be among those that will be destroyed before New York. Portions of New York City itself will, in the main, disappear.
We get similar warnings about the future from many other sources. In particular, the North American Hopi Indians from Black Mesa, northern Arizona, warn of similar events in their folklore about great earth changes destined to occur before the new millennium. The name Hopi means peace. The Hopi Indians are one of the oldest peoples of North America. Their prophecies speak of a blue star that will enter our solar system at the end of the century. This star is predicted to cause a great upheaval on the Earth and ultimately result in a shift in man's consciousness.
Blue star shall enter our system, altering the magnetic vibrations of Earth. Mankind will be affected in a most positive way.
But before this occurs, there are 9 prophecies, according to the Hopi, that are to be fulfilled before we experience the end of the world as we know it.
We were told of the coming of white-skinned men who took the land that was not theirs and struck their enemy with thunder. Our lands will see the coming of spinning wheels filled with voices. A strange beast like a buffalo, but with great long horns, will overrun the land. The land will be crossed by snakes of iron. The lands will be crisscrossed like a giant spider web. The lands will be crossed with rivers of stone that make pictures in the sun. You'll hear of the sea turning black and many living things dying because of it. You'll see many youth who wear their hair long like our people come and join the tribal nations to learn our ways and wisdom. This is the 9th and last sign. You'll hear of a dwelling place in the heavens above the earth that shall fall with a great crash. Very soon after this, the ceremonies of the Hopi people will cease. These are the signs that great destruction is here. The world shall rock to and fro. That time's not far off. It'll come when the Sequasa Hakachina dances in the plaza and removes his mask. He represents a blue star, far off yet invisible, which will make its appearance soon.
Nostradamus also speaks of a second sun.
The great star will burn for 7 days, and a cloud will make the sun appear double. A great misery for mankind, and an even greater one approaches when the great cycle of the centuries is renewed.
Well, this is it, the San Andreas Fault. This is where the Pacific and the North American plates meet. It stretches some 600 miles right through California, and it's also part of the Pacific Ring of Fire.
The west coast of America, the San Andreas area, San Francisco, as many geologists have said, an earthquake waiting to happen. So that I wouldn't like to be there when it does happen, but that's an issue that many Americans are concerned about. The disaster on those earthquakes could be monumental.
And what are we actually looking at here, George?
Well, we're here where the two plates come together. You have the Pacific plate coming in this way. You've got the continental plate. We have the Pacific plate coming into the left here, diving under and moving along it, and exposing quite a sharp scarp here, they call it.
And what sort of experiences have you had?
Well, I have been in a large quake. I was in an 8.6, and I remember getting out of my car, hanging onto the door. I couldn't take a step, and looking across the parking lot, and there were swells, just like you'd see in a bay, and water coming across, one after another, 1 foot up, 1 foot down, and a tremendous screeching sound. Like if you screeched a balloon or an inner tube, that's what the asphalt sounded right behind the car. And that worried me a little bit, because I thought maybe it was going to open up. But
these faults are going to literally shift their positions and actually will fragment, so that there is a drop of hundreds of feet instantly. This will create, in California, about 150 islands. It will also change the new coastlines as these land masses move all the way from Alaska all the way down to the Baja.
The tides will rise beyond their ken to bite away the shores, and then the mountains will begin to roar, and earthquakes split the plain to shore. And flooding waters, rushing in, will flood the lands with such a din that mankind cowers in muddy fen and snarls about his fellow men.
The poetic prophet Mother Shipton was born in Norfolk, England in 1488. Her visions began at an early age and, like Nostradamus, she foresaw her own death. She was burned at the stake for being a witch.
3 sleeping mountains gather breath and spew out mud and ice and death. And earthquakes swallow town and town in lands as yet to me unknown, and men will die of thirst before the oceans rise to mount the shore. And lands will crack and rend anew. You think it's strange. It will come true.
Los Angeles, the so-called city of the angels, almost a metaphor for life in the fast lane. A place where ideas, fads and fashions come and go in the twinkling of an eye. The archetype of the throwaway society. The symbolic manifestation of what the prophets have often referred to as the quickening. The quickening is a point in history where not only science and technology speeds up at a frightening pace, but also where ideas, philosophies, and even moral values change with the wind as fast as we can conceive them. The visionaries have warned us to look out for this phenomenon as a sign of the last days.
So the 90s dreaming's all about a fast pace. See, in the olden days, we used to walk the journeys. And with that walking, we're treading the paths of ancestors. We're treading their journeys, and we had time then to do our businesses within those journeys. Sorry business, happy business, man's business, woman's business. Now we're all travelling fast. So we've had to learn ourselves, as the keepers of all of those stories and energies, to slow down ourselves.
The quickening is going to have the effect on the human psyche supposedly, because time is speeding up. Everything is speeding up. We're getting more information. The cycles of the planet are speeding up and so forth. This is going to create problems with human beings in their relationships one with another, in families, in nations, everywhere. That is what it is supposed to create. It is supposed to bring out the best in people and the worst in people.
As the countdown for the opening of the sale began, the crowd surged forward. People dragged and trampled by the frantic shoppers. Some were cut, others were in shock. But salesmen were forced to protect themselves with helmets and elbow pads for the rush on 7 discounted fridges.
Our preoccupation with materialism has led us to be distracted from our higher possibility. And I don't think we can argue with that. What you focus your attention on will close you off to other possibilities.
And I think a lot of people emotionally and metaphysically are sort of scrambling to keep up. And of course the system puts you under perpetual pressure anyway. So I think that's all part of this quickening process. One can feel this really heady pace.
The Mayan Indian culture of Central America warns us to look out for this quickening as a sign of the catastrophic end of a great earth cycle. Their sacred calendar goes back over 500,000 years, though for some strange reason it ends abruptly in the year 2012 AD.
The upper portion of Europe will be changed as in the twinkling of an eye. Many battlefields of the Second Great War will become ocean, bays, and lands over which the new order will carry on their trade with one another. The earth will be broken in many places.
The Caspian and Black Seas have become part of the Mediterranean, with half of France underwater.
Flooding in southeast France claimed more than 30 lives in September. Violent storms turned streets into rivers as flash floods smashed through towns and villages.
London has become a coastal city.
And the west coast of the UK will rise and the east coast will sink. And as a result, many of the great ports, where they've been mining for many years and where, of course, they're pumping the oil, all of these situations will cause problems for the people.
While we understand only too well wars, floods, earthquakes and volcanoes, John the Apostle, Nostradamus and Edgar Cayce describe rivers and seas turning red like blood.
2 great rocks will war for a long time. Then Arethusa, the god of war, will redden the new river. Blood will be seen to rain on the rocks.
And something like a great mountain burning with fire was hurled into the sea, and 1/3 of the sea became blood.
Hailstones about the weight of a talent in the Bible. A talent is 70 pounds. That's a very big hailstone. This is probably a small meteorite or a comet. So in all of these phenomena, we find that iron particles from the meteors dissolve into a red pigment. For instance, Nostradamus had spoken about red water, rivers of blood. The Bible had said the same thing, and miscellaneous other traditions also speak of this phenomenon. What would primitive people think this was? They wouldn't say, oh, here we got dissolved iron particles. They'd say, oh, the river is full of blood. This is a bad omen, especially when things fell out of the sky.
A very mighty trembling in the month of May, with blood, human bodies, water, and red hell covering the earth. hail will fall larger than an egg.
For the Earth to experience the rising and sinking of entire continents and the complete obliteration of the world as we know it, we're going to need a lot more than a few active volcanoes, earthquakes or tidal waves. A shift in the Earth's axis could trigger off the necessary energy required for such global upheaval. But how could such a shift happen? Was Nostradamus seeing a shift in our Earth's axis when he says,
"And it shall be in the month of October that a great movement of the globe will happen, and it will be such that one will think the gravity of the Earth has lost its natural balance, and that it will be plunged into the abyss and perpetual blackness of space."
Because we're coming up to the end of the millennium, we have this millennium fever. We're noticing comets. It's deep, deep within the psyche. Velikovsky, the controversial writer of the 50s, he had spoken about mankind in amnesia. We've been suppressing this knowledge because it was so catastrophic, and this is a time in history when it's bursting forth because it's that time again.
It is something that's very intriguing, the idea that periodically a large piece of rock, maybe up to a kilometre across, could crash into the Earth and cause dramatic changes to the climate, cause dust in the atmosphere, ice ages and what have you.
I think eventually we're going to have to rewrite our history books. Certainly they are rewriting archaeology and geology right now. When Casey said there were pole shifts in the past, nobody thought that was possible. Now there's very good evidence that the poles have shifted a number of times.
There's concern about an alignment of planets coming up in the near future that could contribute to a gravitational pull on the Earth, which might contribute to a polar shift. Not a magnetic shift, but a geophysical shift.
There's also some people that use the date of May 5th of the year 2000, and that seems to have to do with some sort of planetary alignment where all the planets line up, and they feel this may have some sort of a gravitational effect on planet Earth. Some people like to put dates on these things, and of course Edgar Casey spoke of the year 2000, 2001 as the shifting of the poles.
The one great change that does take place occasionally are changes in the Earth's magnetic field. There was one recorded in Australia, not a complete change, about 30,000 years ago at Lake Mungo. But when those changes take place, we don't really understand just what happens in the cosmic radiation zone, how much radiation would be received at the Earth's surface. There's been a lot of argument about that question, possibility of increased radiation during such a change in the Earth's magnetic field, which is controlled by the core.
Scientists are now saying that there could be a curious correlation in the movement of this inner sphere of the Earth's core spiraling about, sort of having a life of its own, having a tremendous effect or potential effect on flip-flops of the north-south magnetic field, and also on magnetic ley lines above the surface of the Earth.
Waters shall yet more wonders do. How strange, yet shall be true. The world upside down shall be.
If reversal of the poles is a fact in the great cycle of the Earth, then, as we've seen, the land masses as they currently present themselves would once have been somewhere else. Today, scientists know that Antarctica has huge coal deposits, proving that forests once existed there. This suggests it was once in a location where a temperate climate must have prevailed. They don't all seem to agree exactly on the same dates, but there certainly seems to be an underlying connecting thread between prophecy and catastrophic earth changes and global warfare around the turn of the century. However, they speak of an enlightened, peaceful golden age immediately following these apocalyptic events. But first, we all have to change the way we think.
In the past, we've become separated from the natural world. We manipulate the natural world. We sit in our air-conditioned offices and nature is outside us. And clearly, I think there's a case to be made that unless we do rediscover our roots with nature, we're in for big trouble.
It's not so much that we have to all go back to living in huts again and hunting here and there and gathering, as much as it is that we need to think like hunters and gatherers again.
Mankind doesn't like to change. We've got to change our thinking. We've got to change our way of life. Instead of simply being focused upon my needs and the needs of my immediate family and the acquisition of material wealth, we have to stop and think about the needs of everyone.
We can't consume at the rate we're consuming. Nobody can really keep up with the stress that we're required to operate under, and because it's unnatural. And in the end, you can do a lot of unnatural things for a long time, and then one morning you got a hell of a hangover and you think, wait, I better go back to tofu and, suck up some of this spirulina and, straighten up. So it's really, the whole world's got to go back to sort of a sensible diet of simplicity and a more spiritual way of operating.
The native prophecies from a variety of sources throughout the world tell us over and over that if we don't wake up to the change and meet that drumbeat as we should, that climate will change for us to get our attention.
As Hurricane Hugo slammed into Puerto Rico, its winds of more than 200 kilometers an hour sheared power poles and filled the air with debris.
The storm roared through in the early morning, pushing big seas onto the coast. An amateur cameraman captured these pictures as the weather reached its worst in the west of England.
The powerful nighttime tremor shook Tokyo for a terrifying minute, bringing panic to those still in their offices and at home.
It's going to be cataclysmic for the Earth as a cleansing, but then a reemergence of a time period of at least a millennium of the kind of a planet we always wanted. It's a period of peace and harmony and cooperation. My visions indicate that it lasts a lot longer than 1,000 years.
And so what we're facing is really a new birth for the planet, renewal of the environment, and for ourselves, a new form of a new improved humanity.
It seems that in order to effect change, we not only have to be more aware of how we treat our planet, but how we treat our fellow man. Both visionaries and scientists all seem to be telling us that how we imagine our future is how it will be.
Choice plays the major role in what the next millennium will be about.
Man doesn't understand that the power of the mind is immense. What we think, we create. If we can change our thinking, we can change our life.
The purpose of prophecy is to warn us so that if we don't like the prophesied outcome, we can use our free will to change the course of destiny.
A carriage without horse will go. Disaster fill the world with woe. In water, iron then shall float as easy as a wooden boat. For in those wondrous far-off days, the women shall adopt a craze to dress like men, and trousers wear, and to cut off their locks of hair. They'll ride astride with brazen brow, as witches do on broomstick now. When pictures seem alive with movements free, when boats, like fishes, swim beneath the sea, when men like birds shall scour the sky, then half the world, deep drenched in blood, shall die. For those who live the century through, in fear and trembling, this shall do. Flee to the mountains and the dens, to bog and forest and wild fens. Not every soul on earth will die as the dragon's tail goes sweeping by, but the land that rises from the sea will be dry and clean and soft and free of mankind's dirt, and therefore be the source of man's new dynasty. And before the race is built anew, a silver serpent comes to view, and spew out men of like unknown to mingle with the earth, now grown cold from its heat. And these men can enlighten the minds of future man, to intermingle and show them how to live and love, and thus endow the children with the second sight, a natural thing, so that they might grow graceful, humble, and when they do, the golden age will start anew.